Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. The sun is out, the jets are flying by, and I'm walking home from the train. It's the last week of classes, and I did teach one of my classes today, so that means I'm halfway toward being done with all my classes for the semester. Yee-haw. So it's been a little while since I've talked to you about games I've played recently, so I feel it's time for a Board Game Espresso triple shot. Espresso, whoop. The Board Game Espresso triple shot is a short review episode where I talk about 3 games I've played recently for the first time and 1 game I dusted off and tell you what I think of them. This is not strictly a review because I've only played these games 1 or maybe 2 times, so I don't really have enough information about them to give you a reasonable review of them. But the idea is that you get a sense of the game and you come to understand what I think about it and what makes it tick. So let's just jump right in. The first game I want to talk about today is Habitats. Habitats was designed by Corne van Moorsel, published in 2016, and it's been republished recently by Allplay. Habitats is a tile placement game where you are working to score points by playing down tiles or cards, with different animals on them. And the idea is that you're trying to score the different cards by their relationship to other cards around them. It's kind of hard to articulate, except to say that so say you have a bird, and the bird requires 3 green next to it and 2 blue. Then in the 4 adjacent spots around the bird, you have to have at least 1 blue and 1 green. And then adjacent to those, you can have the other ones. So the thing that makes it interesting is that you might have 1 blue and 1 green adjacent to the card that's scoring. But if there are other greens adjacent to the green that you're scoring with, that would count toward that number. So when I say it has to be adjacent to 3 blue and 2 green, those don't have to be immediately around it. Instead, they can be kind of spread out as long as they're kind of in chains of associated area with the cards that are next to it. If I didn't explain it well enough for you to conceive it from that, there's no hope. I can't do any better. What makes Habitats interesting is this chained scoring situation, and the idea is that it's sort of set collection, or you're trying to score these different cards based on that chain scoring. Now, when I started to play this, it felt a little familiar, and then I remember hearing, I think from the Salt and Sass podcast, that Habitats is a game that Uwe Rosenberg, the famous designer of Agricola and other games, played just before he designed Nova Luna. And Nova Luna is actually a less complex version of Habitats, in which you have just these tiles you're putting out and very simple scoring conditions around them, but they are scoring conditions built around this idea of connected spaces all counting in the scoring. Apparently, and this is the story they told on Salt and Sass, Rosenberg was so captivated by that particular aspect of the tile laying scoring that he took it and designed his own game just around that mechanism. And then he called up Cornel van Tassel and said, "Hey, I'm giving you a co-design credit on this because your idea was so integral to what's going on. I feel like you co-designed it," which I think is a really nice thing for Uwe Rosenberg to do, and is probably part of the reason that Habitats got reprinted by Allplay in this nice new edition. Now, having played Habitats and Nova Luna, I like Habitats better. The simple game of Nova Luna is a nice puzzle, but it doesn't have the pleasurable theme that I like in Habitats. Now, you could argue Rosenberg tried that again. He took that same mechanism, altered it a bit more, and used it in Applejack. But Applejack was fine. I played it a few times on Board Game Arena, but it didn't really captivate me either. So, Habitats, worth trying if you get a chance. Really interesting game, fun to play. Next up, we have one of the games that fulfilled a novelty game role in my 10 for 10 this year. This is Ted Lasso Party Game. I picked this up for $3 at Goodwill, and for $3, I think it's well worth it. The Ted Lasso Party Game is a simple timed game in which players are taking turns contributing sort of vibes to different problems facing the soccer team, or the football team that Ted Lasso coaches. There are a number of different locations and different characters that get played into those locations, and those characters have different problems. And on your turn, you're adding sort of solution cards to try to solve those problems. If you get the right combination of solutions, then that problem is removed. And the goal over the course of the game is to remove all the problems and solve the problems of all the team. It's a relatively simple game, definitely very light, easy to teach. This is not a gamer's game. It is very much a party game for regular folks. That said, it's pretty fun, and it's cooperative, which you would hope a Ted Lasso game would not be competitive. And I like it. I'm definitely keeping it in my collection. Probably won't play it very often, but every now and again, with the right people, we might say, hey, let's play the Ted Lasso party game. If I say that a few times and I get no's, then it might move over to my collection at school, but we'll see. That's designed by Prospero Hall and published by Funko Games. Of course, Prospero Hall is the design studio that Funko Games purchased and was using to do all of their IP-based development. I have heard in the last few months that apparently Funko sold off their game licensing and game development assets to another company, but they did not sell Prospero Hall with them. They just disbanded it. And so all the people who were at Prospero Hall were cast adrift. I'm told that some of them have joined up into a new design studio and are putting their shingle out in the board game space, which is good to hear because Prospero Hall is a force for really clever game design in the tabletop market. They did a bunch of stuff for Ravensburger, the Jaws game, I believe Horrified. I don't know if they designed Villainous, but they certainly did quite a bit to really bring licensed games up to the forefront, I think. So, Ted Lasso Party Game, worth checking out. I guess if you like Ted Lasso. I don't know that it's probably worth playing if you don't like Ted Lasso. Next up, I often like to talk about a game that I've pulled out of the dust in the last month. And so today I'm going to continue with the small party recognition shouting games, which I started last month when I talked about dusting off Dude. I also dusted off Call of the Wild. Call of the Wild is a tiny little shouting game that I heard about from the Board Game Blitz podcast. And I think that I have the copy is one of maybe 100 copies that the designer made off of a very small but successful Kickstarter. I think I ordered it from the designer directly off their website, and it was mailed to me from the designer. So, very niche game. I'm not sure if it's available at all anymore. The way the game works, it uses round cards in the size of coasters, although they're just cards, they're not coasters. And each player gets a deck of identical cards, and on the card there is a circle of life, a sort of group of different sort of fictional animals in a circle showing a path of predation. So you have this one animal and it eats a different animal, and that animal eats a different animal, and so on. And each animal has a noise associated with it. And the idea of the game is that you are trying to either find a mate or find food for your creature. And the way it works is you have a deck of cards and you draw one. And I don't remember the exact draw play mechanism, because I feel like it's not the same as Dude or Happy Salmon, but I reverse engineered it to be the same rule as Dude. And then only later did I realize I was teaching it wrong. That it actually uses some other rule, but I don't know. Anyway, you draw a card and it's got a creature on it. Let's say the Chi-Chi. And all these creatures have names, but I don't remember the names because what you need to know is the noise they make. So there's noise that goes Chi-Chi. And so then you have the choice. Do you want to say Chi-Chi, make the noise that the creature makes? Or do you want to make one of the other noises? You could make the noise that the creature's food makes, or you could make the noise that the creature's predator makes. And the goal that you have is to find another creature making a noise, and it's got to be a creature making the same noise you're making, and then you agree to compare cards, and if you are in fact the same creature, then you mate, and you each keep the card the other person handed you as a scorecard. Or if one of you is the predator of the other, then the one who played the predated creature forfeits their card, and so the person who played the predator gets both. Or if you are not adjacent on the predator-prey circle, then both cards are returned to their owners and you continue play. So the idea is there's a couple different things you might say when you have a creature in your hand with the goal of getting someone else who's saying the same thing to match you. It sounds maybe more complicated than it is. It's sort of like if Dude were competitive instead of cooperative or semi-cooperative, but it's a fun little game. I can't say it's amazing, but I play it maybe once a year, once every 18 months, and mostly with new people, and at that pace, it's really fun. It's an excellent little game, well worth your time if you get a chance. That's The Call of the Wild, designed by David Medley and Evan Scheidegger, published by Play All Day Games and Rather Fun Games. So the last game I'm going to talk about is one of my top of the stack games from April. This is Alien Artifacts, published from Portal Games. The designers are Viola Kijowska and Marcin Senior-Ropka. Like I said, published by Portal Games. Now this game has a really nice aesthetic, crisp graphics, white box, white backgrounds. It feels a little bit like an Apple product, at least on the front of each piece. And the premise is it's a 4X game. You are expanding, exploring, exploiting, and exterminating your opponents and planets. And the idea is that there are an abandoned set of ancient artifacts spread through the galaxy. I know that sounds unfamiliar, right? That whatever species gets a hold of them, they provide a significant amount of power and advanced technology such that the race that has the most of these is going to accelerate faster. So your goal is to build a civilization, a spacefaring civilization, to outcompete your opponents and to have the best engine to trigger the end of the game. Now I will say, once we got this game going, it was really fun. I liked Alien Artifacts quite a bit. I'm looking forward to playing it more. That said, once we got it going was way more of a burden than it should have been or than I would have liked it to be. So the main thing is the rule book was hard to read, both small text and difficult to understand. The cards all have very small text, so I definitely needed my glasses. I mean, I do all the time anyway, but it was really hard to read some of the text on the cards. And gameplay just wasn't super efficient or smooth. It was a little rough. So it took us a little while to get the feel for it. There were just a few things that happened that just aren't intuitive. It was hard to, you couldn't predict that that's how this would work. And so they kind of got in your way. So all of that goes to suggest that the way that the game is put together is just not smooth like you would like it to be. That said, I really like the engine building component of this. A big part of it is there's 3 different kinds of things that you can get, and kind of like innovation, when you get them, they give you a power, and kind of like Matainai, you have to pick whether you're going to use one power or another, and the power you pick determines what you get from it, but also how much you score from it. So if you lean into one type of power, then you aren't going to score anything. If you lean into the other type of power, then you don't have enough power. It's a really compelling mix of mechanisms, and I thought it was really fun. So if you get a chance to play Alien Artifacts, especially with someone who's played it before and can do a smooth teach, it's definitely worth giving it a try. So that's Alien Artifacts from Portal Games. Well, that's about it for me today. I'm just about home, so I'll say, what games have you been playing recently? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share over there. I'd love to hear what you've been trying. Until next time, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.